Friday afternoon, the San Francisco 49ers sent shockwaves around the NFL by making a deal with the Miami Dolphins for their third overall pick. But this trade impacts a lot more than just those two teams. We're discussing that trade's possible trickle effect and so much more tonight on Broncos Beat. As always, I'm your host, Alexis Perry, joined by the big three today: James Palmer from the NFL Network, Cecil Lammey from 104.3 The Fan, and draft expert from CBS Sports, Chris Trapasso. Guys, nothing like a blockbuster deal to start the weekend off right. Bear with me here as I break this one down. The Miami Dolphins sent the third overall pick in this year's draft to the 49ers in exchange for their 2021 12th overall pick, 2022 first and third round picks, and their 2023 first round pick. Miami then traded up to number 6 by sending their newly acquired 12th overall selection, a higher mid-round pick, and their 2022 first round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. James, as far as you know, how did this ginormous deal come together, and what was your reaction when you heard the news break?
Well, guys, I think this shows all of us, as we think we know what's going on in the NFL, that there are so many conversations and everything is in place far and away prior to it being revealed. The other thing is, I didn't know that one gas mask could turn into so many first-round picks. It's remarkable what the Miami Dolphins have been able to do. But I think if you talk to the right people, the Dolphins played this perfectly about how they went about their business, how they went about waiting, not really revealing where they stood in terms of Tua Tagovailoa, where they were in moving forward. The Deshaun Watson, are they going to take a quarterback at 3? What are they going to do with their current quarterback? And then you wait for somebody to be aggressive. We know Kyle Shanahan has one of the best minds in all of football. So if he really wants someone, John Lynch is going to go and let him do that. But you go and look, and I know we'll dive into this deeper, Cecil, at the teams and Kyle's connections around the top of the draft.
Right.
They only gave up 3 first-round picks. I say only, it's a lot. They only gave that up because they know who they're going to be getting, because they have such great relationships with the teams that are around them at the top of the draft. That's how this was able to happen, and that's how Kyle was able to be so aggressive going up and giving up what he did to get to that number 3 spot. He doesn't need to get up to 2 or 1.
Well, let's be honest. I mean, the Jets staff is mostly former Broncos coaches and former 49ers coaches. So there's quite great familiarity there as well. We all know that Trevor Lawrence is going to go number 1 to Jacksonville. You look at this situation, you go, okay, Kyle Shanahan has identified his guy. So what's the price tag? It's huge. Alexis is reading it. It's like War and Peace, right? Yeah, it doesn't matter. I prefer Infinite Jest if we're talking long books, but still, like, okay, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I've often said, if you find a guy, you fall in love with a guy, go get the guy. The 49ers have identified someone. Who that is, I think it's Trey Lance. If I look at Kyle Shanahan and that Shanahan offense that we know, using bootlegs and rollouts, and, you know, listening to the words of John Lynch, which I do trust, and he says, hey, we believe in Jimmy Garoppolo. We got to get better as a backup. And having Lance sit behind Garoppolo for a season, using that natural athleticism that Lance has, bringing this sort of Steve McNair type of game to the West Coast, to the 49ers, I think that would be a guy they'd identify to move up 4 to 3. Chris, what about you?
Yeah, that's a really good sell for Trey Lance, especially if you think that the 49ers are going to ride Jimmy Garoppolo into 2021. I think with his injury history, though, and a team that's going to be getting back George Kittle, they're going to be getting back Nick Bosa, 2 central parts to that Super Bowl team. I think they more want to win now and upgrade the quarterback position now. We know the teams can really switch how they feel about a quarterback after a draft. I think it's for Justin Fields. He gives you a lot of the same stuff that Trey Lance does athletically and with the arm talent, with 2 years of full experience compared to Trey Lance only being 19 years old in that 1 year at North Dakota State as a starter. I think that gives him a little bit of a leg up in terms of being NFL ready. And in terms of accuracy and using him in the bootleg game, Justin Fields is ready to operate Kyle Shanahan's offense right now.
I love that we're all over the map with this, that Kyle knows exactly who he wants, and all of us are going, maybe it's this guy, maybe this guy. That's the best part about it. And I do agree with both of you guys. If you look at who Kyle's been around in his career, and you look at who he's coached alongside, sitting a quarterback for a season is something that he has seen and watched happen in the past. And that is something that they could have Jimmy Garoppolo, with a Super Bowl contending type of roster, go out there and play now. But you're right, the injury history, you might have to play. What about Mac Jones? I know it's insane. There's people I've talked to around the NFL, guys that are evaluating their quarterbacks, going, I don't think he's a first-round pick. But I've talked to other people that go, who's a perfect pick for Kyle Shanahan? What you need is, as he schemes guys to run wide open all the time, do you process quickly? Do you make the right decisions? Can you be accurate with the football? That's Mac Jones. I think it would be crazy for Mac Jones to be picked at third, as I've talked to a lot of people around the league. But at the same time, as Cecil said, Alexis, if you fall in love with somebody that you think does exactly what you want, then you go and get him. And it's going to be very, very interesting over the next couple of weeks of what we find. But there are people that I've talked to around the league that think Mac Jones is the perfect Kyle Shanahan fit.
Well, and now the rumor mill is a churning, given the fact that Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch, they're going to Mac Jones's pro day, second pro day on Tuesday instead of Justin Fields. So what do you guys think about that, Chris?
Well, it does kind of lead to some more speculation about that being the guy that the 49ers actually might pick. I think ultimately that would be a huge mistake. And certainly John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan know 15 times more about football than I do.
I was wondering what number you'd pick.
Yeah, I could have picked higher than that, probably 50 times more. But I think it's a cautionary tale. Looking even over the last 4 or 5 drafts, the teams that have traded up for a quarterback who is not a physical or an athletic freak, those quarterbacks have ultimately failed, like Sam Darnold, Mitchell Trubisky, Josh Rosen. The guys who have really succeeded, like Cecil pointed out, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson. You want to pick someone that has that all-pro upside and can ultimately mask some flaws when you can't scheme someone open or you face a really good defense in the playoffs. I think Mac Jones could certainly operate Kyle Shanahan's offense efficiently, but to trade that much to move from 12 to 3, you would think they want someone with a little bit more physical prowess than Mac Jones.
Okay,
and for a guy that might have been there at 12 anyway.
Exactly.
You know, that's the great debate, Alexis.
Right. There's a chance the Broncos might still move up or down. Hypothetically, though, if Denver keeps the 9th overall pick, how might these deals that happen on Friday impact the top 9?
Well, we know quarterback is 1, 2, 3. That's a given. All right. It's 1, 2, 3. And now you're left with 4 and even 5, as the case may be. So whereas that was a great deal for the 49ers and they're moving up to get their guy in our Broncos Beat bingo, it is actually James who said fit today. I want the record to show that. It's the Denver Broncos at 9, and you may be too late. You're not going to get Kyle Trask at 9, okay? That's not going to happen. So at 9, quarterback is probably off your board, in my opinion.
Okay.
Totally agree. I think quarterback is out of the question unless you can get up. I think the Falcons now, Cecil, sit in a really, really good spot to where they are a team to where, are we going to go quarterback? I know a couple positions talking to people there, they're not going to go. I think what this did do, Alexis, is it put things a lot more in line. Now, Chris is the draft expert on the show, but I think now you have a better feel, right, Chris, for where things are going to fall. You know, at 5, the Bengals aren't going quarterback. You know that probably they want to protect that new quarterback of theirs. And then you look at the way the rest of it falls before the Broncos at 9. I think you have a chance with the quarterbacks going at the top to really have your pick at a couple different spots. And I wouldn't be upset if they went offensive line.
Yeah, I think offensive line could certainly be there. Probably Penei Sewell goes at number 5 overall to the Cincinnati Bengals, but Rashawn Slater from Northwestern is very athletic, very clean film, can play guard, any position you want up front. Christian Darrisaw from Virginia Tech is another really squeaky clean guy on film from Virginia Tech. And I think the Broncos at number 9, there's a good chance that they could pick the first defensive player in the draft, which certainly at edge rusher, at linebacker, to have the pick of the litter at either of those 2 positions, I think would be very luxurious for the Broncos.
We'll discuss all that a little bit later in this show. You guys, San Francisco has clearly fallen in love with the quarterback, but what if Broncos GM George Paton has done the same? Could we see the Broncos trade up for a young gunslinger? We'll discuss that on the other side of the break. Welcome back to Broncos Beat. Alexis Perry here alongside James Palmer, Cecil Lammey, and Chris Trapasso. You guys, you've heard it on the show before. Heck, we heard it in the last segment. If you love a guy, go get a guy. Well, the 49ers showed us what a team will give up to hopefully get their guy, but will the Broncos feel compelled to do the same? As the big trade news was breaking on Friday, quarterback prospect Zach Wilson was throwing darts at BYU's pro day. Broncos GM George Paton made the trip to Provo, but do you guys think Wilson showed enough for Peyton to pick up the phone and dial Jets GM Joe Douglas in an attempt to move up to number 2?
I think he did. And he showed a lot of the same arm talent that he put on display in 2020, this breakout season at BYU. I think with George Payton, the thing to remember is he was in Minnesota when the Vikings brought in Brett Favre when no one saw that coming. And then when they signed Kirk Cousins to this record-setting deal, $84 million fully guaranteed. So he's certainly not afraid to swing for the fences at the quarterback spot. I think ultimately, though, the price would be a little bit too much, but don't be surprised because we do see a new GM usually likes to make his stamp very early on in his tenure at the quarterback spot.
Well, and I think Wilson would be perfect for what the Jets want to do, and honestly perfect for a lot of teams out there. And you look at his game, I think all of us on the show can agree. A lot of people are late to the party. I mean, you turn on the film the first time with him and you're like, oh, this guy can really play at a high level. Now, he's not Pat Mahomes at all. But if you want to say there's some Baker Mayfield plus, sure, because of his athleticism, his arm angles, off-platform throws, all that. There's no pressure at a pro day, and pressure makes every quarterback look mortal, but that's his biggest knock, in my opinion, is how he handles that pressure. Gets a little too cute with the football. Chris probably backed me up on that. But sure, I mean, this is a type of quarterback. You have to think of this division. You have Mahomes. You have Justin Herbert, whatever the Raiders do. But, like, you've got to deal with those guys for a decade. You've got to get one of those guys. Wilson is. I don't know if you can move up that far, though, James.
Yeah, I know that Cecil thought it was an adorable pro day, but at the same time, let's just say it. He's not for sale. I mean, if he was available, or if Joe Douglas wasn't in love with Zach Wilson, Kyle Shanahan knows this. He could have gotten to 2 if he wanted him that bad, and he said, "This is who I want. I'm going to give you a slew of picks." He would have went to 2 to get him, and he couldn't with somebody that they know, and his old defensive coordinator running the show there. So I do think we know that he's probably not going anywhere, and that's who Joe Douglas wants. And he's not going to pick up the phone, but at the same time, he didn't do it with Kyle Shanahan. And at the same time, it was 3 first-rounders to get to number 3. So you got to beat that to get to number 2. And I don't think that really looks like it's in George Payton's makeup. So I just think it would be wonderful to have him playing for the Denver Broncos, but it just does not seem likely. I guess I'm the poo-poo party of this show, Alexis.
You are always the poo-poo party. Let's be real. Well, if the Jets want Wilson and they won't even entertain a trade for number 2, that's probably a good indicator that Sam Darnold's time is up in New York. So should Peyton still be calling Joe Douglas in hopes of making a deal for Darnold?
I don't think that would be a bad idea, because I think the Jets are hanging on to Sam Darnold as long as they can. They're talking him up to try to keep his trade value high. Maybe you send him a text about Zach Wilson and get a quick 1-word answer no, but maybe you do call about Sam Darnold, and Joe Douglas would probably entertain that discussion more than trading up to number 2 overall. I think Sam Darnold has not lived up to being the number 3 overall pick in 2018, but he's only 24 years old, and we know that in New York, he did not have a good situation around him, maybe not the best coaching staff the last couple of seasons. I think him and Drew Lock in a quarterback competition would probably get the best out of both of these 2 young quarterbacks.
Chris is being nice. I'll cut to the chase. Adam Gase has ruined quarterbacks before. Look what he almost did to Ryan Tannehill. Okay, and then look at how Tannehill rebounded with Arthur Smith. That's what you could get in a Sam Darnold. I know John Elway loved Sam Darnold when he came out of college and Broncos couldn't get him. Well, guess what? Now you might be able to. So I think that's a good reclamation project. Probably fits exactly what they want to do, which is find competition for the room. And then let's see who can win in that sort of situation. But with Darnold, it's certainly not to the point where he's seen ghosts or he's ruined. He hasn't been David Card, in my opinion, yet, James. So there's still something there. If you can salvage him, good for you.
Man, Cecil, low blow on my coworker. That's all right, though. But anyways, I will say this. If you talk to people around the league, they will tell you Adam Gase is the reason Sam Darnold still has a market right now, because of what you saw, the transformation Ryan Tannehill, like Cecil brought up. You think in certain teams, obviously every coach believes, oh, that guy, I can totally fix that. I'm a great coach. That's what coaches think. That's why they're in the NFL. At the same time, they've seen the transformation. They've seen the change in Ryan Tannehill from Adam Gase onto Arthur Smith. That is what's keeping, Alexis, the market alive for Sam Darnold, in my understanding.
What do you guys think a quarterback battle would look like between Drew Lock and Sam Darnold?
Well, I think they're actually pretty similar quarterbacks. That Sam Darnold and Drew Lock at times can make ridiculous throws with anticipation down the field, off platform, but it's really their consistency inside the pocket and kind of getting rid of some of those bad decisions. So I think it would be very fascinating. But for Darnold, he would be welcomed to joining the Denver Broncos with that wide receiver and tight end room that is significantly better than what he had in New York with the Jets.
And that offensive line for the Denver Broncos would make Darnold shine. And honestly, where I do agree with Chris, they are similar. The one big difference, in my opinion, is Darnold's mobile. There's a difference between being athletic and mobile. Drew Lock is athletic. Sam Darnold is mobile. He can take off and run. The times that we've seen Lock try to do that, well, he stumbled and got hurt against the Steelers. And he stumbled, got hurt. What was that, in the preseason as a rookie? So, okay, Darnold's a guy that can scramble, can keep plays alive better with his feet. Advantage Darnold, James, in my opinion.
I agree with you, Cecil. And I think the other part that we're going to look into this, and I'll take this kind of off the field. I've loved the patience that George Paton has had throughout this free agency period. Let's see if he can display that similar amount of patience with going after Sam Darnold. And if he ends up getting him for a steal and brings him in and waits it out and the market's not entirely there and then everybody knows where the quarterbacks are going and he comes and gets him without giving up a whole lot, that's going to change the narrative on George Paton a little bit more. I think more in the direction that we're seeing over these last couple of weeks about he's made some really smart, patient moves. Alexis, I think if Sam Darnold comes in that type of move, I think things start going, well, George Paton might be on to something here.
All right, guys. Well, if the Broncos hold on to their 9th overall pick, we will discuss who the best player available might be on draft night. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Broncos Beat, guys. Earlier in the show, we discussed how Friday's blockbuster trade really changed the landscape of the 2021 NFL draft. So, Cecil, who do you think will be the best player available at 9 if the Broncos stay put?
Could be Kyle Pitts, honestly. And if you say tight end to the Denver Broncos, okay, are you a BPA guy? Because BPA guy means take him whoever it is. So is that actually a tight end when you already have Noah Fant? But what would that look like? I know it's probably not going to happen, but with Noah Fant and Kyle Pitts, it sounds pretty fun to me. So BPA at 9, yeah, and it could be a defensive player. Chris brought that up earlier. Like, this could be the first defensive player off the board, whether you consider that Micah Parsons as the new generation linebacker, which is what you need, or even cornerback. That is still a possibility. You want to say J.C. Horn at 9? Fine. Patrick Surtain, fine, because corner is still on the board because everything is 1 year with this. Fuller 1 year, Callahan 1 year left. Like, you have to look at that secondary and think about the future. So BPA at 9 is going to give the Broncos a lot of options because of this quarterback push up top.
I love that I talked to J.C. Horn and he told me face to face last week, Cecil, Kyle Pitts ain't no tight end. He's like, he was just saying that so he could get as many linebacker matchups as he could get because I went against him man to man. There is no way that dude is a tight end. He said he moves unbelievably. That would be crazy. I would think the Broncos would jump if Kyle Pitts is sitting there at 9. And Cecil's exactly right. You mentioned the corner market. Everything's at, 1 year deals. And as I've been going to these pro days, so have the Denver Broncos, and they've been going to most of them that have cornerbacks that will be in play at the top of this draft. The only reason they missed Alabama's pro day where Patrick Surtain was working out is because the Kyle Fuller deal was going down. They were planning on going, and they ended up, obviously, same position group, had to stay and work out that deal. So I think you can go and look still at the cornerback spot. There's plenty of them at the top of the draft. I still think, Chris, trading back is in play, but if Micah Parsons is there, that, to me, is the changing piece to this defense that would really, really help them out moving forward if we just saw the importance of that position in the past Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about, is that Micah Parsons, 6'3",
Sorry,
245. No, it's good. Crazy athleticism. And what I like, Cecil, is the fact that he's rangy against the run. And then on passing downs, he can put his hand in the dirt and be an effective edge rusher. So if you have Von Miller for one more season, get one more year out of him and let Micah Parsons ultimately be this kind of hybrid linebacker edge rusher, I think he is the perfect player at number 9, the value and for what this team needs.
Okay, NFL.com's Chad Ryder, he's a friend of this program. He has the Broncos taking offensive tackle Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern in his latest mock. So do you guys think the Broncos need an offensive tackle badly enough to take one at 9?
Yeah, I would fit. I saw that from Chad. I was like, good job, Chad, as always. And with this team, everyone talks about rush and cover, right? The talking points have been released, ladies and gentlemen. It's rush and cover in Vic Fangio's defense. Yeah, you know what else you need to do on defense? Run the ball. Let me explain. Every defense is tied to the ground game in the NFL. Everybody knows that. If you're going to have a great defense, you have to run the ball effectively. And when you can get a right tackle and you can have him with Garrett Bowles and you can have him with Dalton Risner, Lloyd Cushenberry, Glasgow, this entire offensive line to push people around. Doesn't matter who your quarterback is. It does, but still, like, you could run the ball effectively, and that just trickles over to help out your swarming, incredible Vic Fangio defense.
What you do is you put everything in place, right, Cecil, and then you go get the quarterback. Do it in reverse. Have everything set up before you have the guy. If Drew Lock isn't the guy this year, and that's who they end up having in 2021, or if he is the guy, look at the position the Broncos are in if they do go offensive tackle, and they're where they stand offensively, Chris, with the weapons that they have, with the offensive line in place. Now go reach for a quarterback. Go give up draft picks or go make that trade for a quarterback. I know there's a lot going on off the field, but teams are kind of getting themselves off the mix of the Deshaun Watson situation. Offensive line doesn't seem like a bad play no matter where the Broncos go.
Yeah, I think for the future, it's smart for what James just outlined, that then in 2022, you could go reach for a quarterback. You can trade for one in free agency, but it gives Drew Lock a legitimate opportunity with a completely cohesive offensive line, a lot of talent up front. You get Cortland Sutton back, and then you can go into 2021 and say, Drew, this is your last chance. We've given you everything imaginable that a young quarterback could want, a very good offensive line and all of that skill position talent. You would really know what you have with Drew Lock at the end of the 2021 season if you pick an offensive lineman at number 9 overall.
Sadly, that's all the time we have for this week's edition of Broncos Beat. We didn't even get into the possibility of the Broncos trading back. We will discuss that next Monday on Broncos Beat. Have a great week, everyone.